Duffy Power Services, Pro-Power Generator Expert. Dial pound 250 and say Duffy Power.
It's a pressure. Cars.
Good morning, everyone. This is Kfi Am 640, more stimulating talk. Don't forget that you can catch KFI everywhere and anytime on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Oscar Ramirez, and I'm the host of The Daily Dive, a daily news podcast covering some of the top stories making waves in the news. You can catch a new episode of The Daily Dive Monday through Friday on iHeartRadio, and it's ready for you when you wake up. Here on The Daily Dive Weekend Edition, I'll be bringing you some of the best stories I covered during the week. We're seeing the deadlines for many vaccine mandates quickly.
Juicy pressure.
Many are
Cars.
taking their shots or looking for exemptions. Religious exemptions are one way that people are seeking to get out of the mandate.
Juicy
But they may not be
pressure.
as easy to get as some may think. Employers have a lot of discretion in granting these. Employers have to provide a reasonable accommodation for these employees, but they can also probe whether a person's beliefs are sincere and deny if they think they are not. Many objections are based on the belief that the COVID vaccines contain fetal cell lines, which they don't. For more on all of this, we'll speak to Andrea Hsu, labor and workplace correspondent at NPR.
Juicy pressure, huh?
The religious exemption comes from Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. And, that is the law that protects workers from discrimination on the basis of, many things, including religion is one of them. So the federal government says that, employers have to provide reasonable accommodations for the workers who have sincerely held religious beliefs, unless, and there's really big unless here, unless doing so poses an undue hardship to the company. And so that's, it's a question like, what is an undue hardship? That's something that I've been exploring, actually.
Yeah, and because, if you have to change the whole business model or workflow or something, that's an easy way to at that point. So when it comes to these reasonable accommodations, what does that mean? On what basis can they start refusing?
Right, so the undue hardship, it doesn't have to be you rearranging your whole company. The actual language uses the word de minimis, which is cutting into minimal. So how undue hardship is defined is more than a de minimis cost or burden on the operation of the employer's business. So think about it, more than a minimal cost. It's a pretty low bar. And, lawyers I spoke to gave me examples, like if somebody's religious belief requires them to not work on Saturdays, and as a result, the company has to rearrange a bunch of people's shifts, that could be considered an undue hardship, and they could deny that person the accommodation of not working on Saturdays.
Wow. So there's a lot of power, obviously, on the employer side of things. I do want to get into the fact of, employers can ask you about your religious beliefs. They can, see if those religious beliefs are sincere. And this is where it gets really interesting because, we're seeing, obviously, there's a lot of misinformation that's all found on the internet. A lot of people are saying that they have objections to vaccines that use fetal cells in research, testing, or production. They don't want to be putting that stuff in their body. And this is where it gets very technical with the COVID-19 vaccines.
Yes, right. So that is a common reason that people are citing, that they say, vaccines are made using fetal cells. What public health officials have made clear is that the COVID-19 vaccines, I'll start with Pfizer and Moderna, they were used in the development and testing of those vaccines. It was fetal cell lines that were developed decades ago in a laboratory. And this is a common practice in pharmaceutical research. And then for the J&J vaccine, it's a little bit different fetal cell lines were being used in the production of the J&J vaccine. But to be clear, none of these COVID vaccines contain any fetal cells. And that is misinformation that is out there. But, one of the CEOs I spoke to a CEO of a hospital in Arkansas, Regional Medical Center. Now, he's a CEO, and he has about 45 1,800 employees, about 5%. They were all based on the fetal cell issue. He wanted to educate his workforce about this issue, so he had his staff compile this list of medicines that have also used fetal cells in research and development.
Yeah, this is really great and shows how much, everyday products might be doing this. And if you're trying to claim an exemption just for this vaccine, and you use any of these other products, you really have no standing, it seems like. But continue, explain it.
That's exactly what he said. But he said, if you use these products, if you're asking for religious exemption, I want you to attest to you not using these products, in the future, or, now, there are products like Tylenol, ibuprofen, Tums, I think X-Lax is on the list, Claritin.
Pepto-Bismol.
Pepto-Bismol, hey, and he said, people need to know that if they're going to be consistent in their beliefs, this applies to a lot of different things. But he also mentioned employers can probe their employees on whether their belief is sincerely held. I've also heard employers say, they ask, do you have children in public school? Are they vaccinated? Because most places do have a vaccine requirement for public school. Do you attend church? There are all kinds of questions that the employers can ask. And I think generally, up until now, most employers trust employees at their word. If they say, I have a sincerely held belief, they would sort of move on to the next phase of trying to figure out if there was a reasonable accommodation. But I think with the COVID-19 vaccine, a lot more employers are scrutinizing the beliefs that are being put forth anyway.
When it comes to the heads of these religions and stuff, when people are trying to claim these religious exemptions, does that have anything to do with it? Because we've seen Pope Francis, for Catholics, obviously, he's said people should go out there and get their vaccinations. Does it matter if the head of your religious organization says yes or no, one way or the other?
Yeah, Pope Francis said, getting vaccinated is an act of love, even. It actually, when it comes down to it, it doesn't, because it's not really about what the religious institutions or leaders say. It's really about your personal beliefs. But it is interesting to see that, even like the Christian Science Church, Christian Science generally counsels prayer rather than medical care. They do not have an official policy on vaccinations. They said it's up to the individuals to decide. So, we do see a lot of clerical leaders out there encouraging people to go get vaccinated. There are some, heads of churches who are saying the opposite, even offering to write letters for members of their church to, support their case for religious exemption. Again, that's just what we've discussed so far, that may or may not, help your case with your employer. It's really in the employer's hands.
Andrea Chu, labor and workplace correspondent at NPR. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Another development to be prepared for, get ready for mail delays and price hikes coming to the U.S. Postal Service. In an effort to cut costs over the next 10 years, first-class mail will be slowed down and there will be less reliance on planes used to transport mail across the country. First-class mail used to be delivered in 1 to 3 days, and in some cases it will be delivered in 1 to 5 days now. Price hikes are also coming to stamp and package deliveries just in time for the holiday season. For more on what to expect and who's affected most, we'll speak to Ellen Ionis, reporter at Vox.
In terms of why this is happening, Postmaster General DeJoy, who took over that role last year in June, is implementing these changes, or trying to implement these changes, because he's predicting this $160 billion budget shortfall over the next 10 years, and the post office is already facing a lot of financial problems and insecurity, so, there is a need for some sort of action, and there are different types that we'll talk about later, but right now, what's happening, as you mentioned, is this slowdown. So, for let's say a majority of people, they probably won't notice any changes with that first-class mail. It'll still be delivered within that 1 to 3 day window. But for some addresses, especially in rural areas, that is going to expand to between 1 and 5 days. So it is really a big difference if you're mailing a bill or waiting on your medication delivery or something like that. And the reason that'll happen, logistically speaking, is because the USPS wants to rely less on air transport than and shift more of that to ground transport. The reason being, air transport can be very expensive and it can be unreliable with weather delays and air traffic and stuff like that. So theoretically, it would be cheaper and more reliable to transport this mail by truck or ground transit.
And you were talking about how many people would be affected by this, right? So about 40% of people, 40% of first-class mail could be affected by this. But, when you're talking about those rural people in other communities, they're the ones that rely on the USPS the most. So unfortunately, it's going to target, it's going to hit them the worst.
That's right, yeah. And so the thing about the Postal Service is one reason it's so great is because it does have to deliver to any address, any postal address that's in its mandate. And now private companies like FedEx and UPS, they don't have to do that. They can say you're not going to deliver to PO boxes and things of that nature. And it's also expensive. The great thing about the USPS is it's relatively inexpensive. It's one of the cheapest ways to deliver mail in the industrialized world. And so it would really mark a big blow to especially rural communities and a lot of the times tribal areas. This is a really important lifeline.
You're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition on KFI AM 640 and everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation about how slowdowns and price hikes are coming to the U.S. Postal Service.
Hey, it's Neil Saavedra. Your home says so much about you and what's important to you, so it makes all the sense in the world to invest in your home and your family's comfort. Years ago, we called American Vision Windows. They installed gorgeous French doors for us, changed the flow of our home, brought light and backyard access to where there was none. They just put some new windows in our kitchen. They're gorgeous, not to mention efficient. Their work is outstanding. I have friends and family who use them at my recommendation, and they love American Vision Windows just like I do. We all know Bill and Kathleen's story. Horrible experience replacing their own windows. Started their own company. 20 years later, they continue to beautify homes with personal care and attention. CSLB number is 778-326. Trust the window company I trust, my family trusts. American Vision Windows. You'll see the difference. Call American Vision Windows today. Get that free estimate. 888-226-9908. That's 888-226-9908. Or for all their specials, go to AmericanVisionWindows.com. If you rely to in buying a timeshare and want out, you need my help. Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, CEO and founder of Wesley Financial Group. 10 years ago, I started the timeshare cancellation industry by exposing the ugly truth about timeshare and giving folks the straight facts. I've been fighting the timeshare giants ever since, so no one knows this industry better than me and my team. Today we have 383 employees and have saved our clients an average of $65,000 in lifetime payments. Imagine putting those timeshare dollars back in your pocket. If you were told in a timeshare presentation that this was available today and today only, that timeshare was a great investment, or your maintenance fees will never go up, call my office now. I guarantee if we take you as a client, we will cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call now for your free information kit. 800-885-8338. 800-885-8338. 800-885-8338.
Families all over California are getting their PEDC cards in the mail. Don't throw it away. It's a new benefit that helps you buy more groceries because of the pandemic. Because yes, it is as good as it seems. You don't have to worry about paying it back, losing other benefits, or impacting your immigration status. And yes, if you got it, you are eligible. And yes, that means more food for your children. Learn more at ca.p-cdc.org.
San Manuel Casino is changing its name and changing the game. San Manuel Casino is now Yamaba Resort and Casino at San Manuel, with 2 new casino floors, now with over 6,500 slots, the most in the West. A new high-limit room for 5 elevated gaming experiences, new luxury retail shops, restaurants and bars, and even more thrills to come. Experience a level of thrill that California has never seen before. San Manuel Casino is now Yamaba Resort and Casino at San Manuel. Details at yamaba.com. Must be 21. Please gamble responsibly. KFI AM 640.
Yes, I know. I have a calming demeanor. You know when it's your job, basically, to push people beyond their comfort zone, it's good to make them feel as safe as possible. Like an open-heart surgeon for your home. You'll do fine. No worries. We got it.
Home with Dean Sharp. The House Whisperer this morning at 9 on KFI AM 640.
More stimulating talk.
This is KFI AM 640. I'm also Ramirez, and you're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition. We're going to see price increases on stamps. I think they might go up about 3 cents. Not too much, right? But they're saying that there could be price increases twice a year in January and July. And we're getting right into the holiday season where, people are sending packages all the time. There could be price increases on package delivery.
That's right, yeah. Looking at about $1, which, for some people isn't a lot, but for a lot of people, that is significant. And if you're mailing, several packages or receiving other packages, those costs are coming to individual people, and that makes things tougher. And you're going to have to make decisions about what you want to send and when. So that can really add up to people.
So what's before for the Postal Service going forward? We've been talking about how first-class mail is going to be slowed down a little bit, the community is going to be impacted by, but the Postal Service is already in a big money crunch. It doesn't look like it's going to get any better. The plan that Postmaster General DeJoy put forward has been gaining some criticism. He's getting some criticism. It doesn't look like it's going to get better anytime soon.
That's right, and it's a difficult kind of pinch that the USPS is in because it is heavily regulated in terms of when it can increase prices and how much. It also has this pension fund that it pays into to help retirees, postal service retirees, and that is it's a big cost to the postal service, and the only way that can change is through legislative action. It can't, the Postmaster General can't say, we're going to do things differently, we're going to change the way we pay into this pension structure. So, unfortunately, that is pretty static for now. There was some legislative action moving on that earlier last year, right before the pandemic hit, and unfortunately that got shifted to the side and it's kind of in purgatory now. It's a big cost, and the U.S. Postal Service doesn't really have as much flexibility to do those price increases like a private company would have. So that's a challenge as well. And there is an acknowledgement that, yes, prices do need to increase, but there's a question in terms of kind of oversight of the USPS. There's a question as to whether the mail slowdown is really going to change anything in terms of financial, making up for that loss.
Ellen Ionis, reporter at Vox, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
On the entertainment front, Netflix's show Squid Game is a hit, and it's poised to become their most watched show ever. There are many reasons why it is hitting at this moment, one of them being social media. On TikTok, the hashtag Squid Game has been viewed more than 22 billion times, and it's perfect meme fodder. While the show is not heavily marketed in the U.S., it is a unique property, and Korean entertainment is currently huge in the States. For more on why Squid Game has taken off, we'll speak to Callan Rosenblatt, youth and internet culture reporter at NBC News.
We see a show that appeals to a wide demographic, first of all. We have teens and teens who are watching the game in Minecraft and Roblox. We have millennials and Gen Z who are meeting it online. We have Gen Xers who are sort of picking up on the trend and sort of hearing about how viral it is. And so we have both this intersection of both a show that is appealing to a wide audience and also the buzz online. I mean, the show was not really advertised in the United States, and yet it has become a huge word of mouth, a huge viral sensation, and as you said, one of the biggest shows possibly ever on Netflix. So what we have here is both a viral sensation that really appeals to a wide audience.
Before we get into kind of the makings of why it's a great show, we've alluded to all of that already. What are the executives saying about it, this hit that they have on their hands right now?
Well, what the executive said, right after the release of the show is that they are anticipating that this will be one of the biggest shows that they've ever had, and that it's, even, I believe they said it was 9 days in, it was already on track to be, an explosively popular show. I spoke with Julia Alexander, who is an analyst who is also an expert on this kind of topic. She's very good with streaming services, and that's sort of her expertise. And she was saying that she is guessing that executives now, and this is her hypothesis, is that they are realizing how big K-dramas, so Korean dramas and K-thrillers, Korean thrillers, are going to be in the United States, and that, we already see this inundation of K-pop, and, Parasite, which is a Korean film, was one of the biggest films in the world, so she is hypothesizing that the executives are clocking this and that they're realizing that this is where the market is going. And she anticipates that we will see many, many more K-dramas popping up on Netflix and other streaming services as well.
You talk about kind of the word of mouth and how it's getting around. The show is so unique. It's, in one way a detriment, right? It doesn't have a natural fan base because it hasn't popped up before. But, it's such a unique thing, right? Let's play children's games and they have deadly consequences. And it's really taken people by storm on that front.
Absolutely. I mean, it's such a unique concept, and I think that's part of it, right? It doesn't have a built-in fan base. This isn't something that was adapted from something else, but it's pretty rare nowadays that we see something that's a wholly unique idea.
That we create that new thing, so that's why it's so good.
Absolutely. It's definitely a show unlike anything I've ever seen before. I would say even just the aesthetics of the show, just visually, the show is so striking, so interesting, and it really is captivating. It really is from top to bottom, from the plot to to the character development to the visuals. It's so unique, it's so interesting, and it really sucks you in. I mean, it made me laugh, it made me cry. You will have a whole range of emotions watching it. I think really, it doesn't need that existing fan base to pull people in and to see people talking about it online and talking about their experience with the show. I think that is enough.
There was an interesting thing, though, in the article that a lot of people were saying, too. So the accessibility of the show is great. I mean, there's dubs, there's subtitled versions of it in many languages. So, the accessibility to it is pretty good. But some people were saying that, some of the translations might not be the best. And there are nuances that people are missing.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been some criticism online that the English dub, for example, is missing sort of key details that don't necessarily impact the plot, but sort of they're clues that you're sort of missing about character development. For example, there was a line, and I don't remember the exact line, where one of the characters basically says, "I'm not a genius, but I can figure things out." And someone makes sure the translation is essentially something to the effect of, "I didn't go to school, but I'm very street smart." And so that's sort of different, sort of changes how you perceive a character and what their backstory is. Now, I've seen other people say, the translation is fine, and also when you're translating from another language, there isn't always a perfect translation. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt. Yeah. But it is exciting to see a show that has been dubbed in so many languages and has subtitles in so many languages when, it's something to be among Americans. Sometimes they don't want to read subtitles. So to have the accessibility, I think it has actually added to the popularity because you don't have to read subtitles in order to enjoy the show. Now, some people choose to enjoy it that way too, and I think it's just as entertaining if you're listening to the original Korean and reading subtitles, but that at least gives everyone the ability to enjoy the show depending on your accessibility level and how you want to consume it.
Helen Rosenblatt, youth and internet culture reporter at NBC News, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition on KFI AM 640 and everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. I'll be back with some more top stories from the week, but first, let's get an update from the KFI newsroom.
KFI, news on the hour, on the half, and when it breaks.
I'm Brian Bruman from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. Investigators say severe weather may have caused the anchor of a ship to move the pipeline in Orange County that's leaked thousands of gallons of oil into the ocean. U.S. Coast Guard Captain Jason Neubauer says they'll be reviewing data from technology that shows the location of ships in the area.
We can see their radar, and they have alarms if vessels are too far off or you're starting to get blown off their anchorages. It's a very modern system.
Video showing growth on the exposed pipe under cracked concrete has investigators suggesting the pipe could have been dragged months ago. Facebook is back up after a big outage Friday, the second in a week. The social media giant is blaming a faulty configuration change for the global outage. Facebook offered its sincere apologies following the 2-hour outage that many users complained about on Twitter. SoCal weather from KFI brought to you by Audible. Mid-70s at the beaches, upper 70s to mid-80s in Metro LA and OC, upper 70s to mid-80s in the inland valleys, and upper 70s to mid-80s in the Inland Empire. We lead local in the KFI 24-hour newsroom. I'm Brian Bruman.
Checking KFI traffic, we do have a crash in the East LA area, 60 eastbound at Atlantic. This one has all lanes blocked. Traffic is being taken off at Atlantic Chug just stopped from the 710. Full closure in Westminster on the 405 north from Westminster Avenue to 22. All lanes closed until 6 a.m. And through Montefello on the 60 westbound Wilcox, a crash there has the 2 left lanes blocked. KFI in the Sky helps get you there faster. I'm Jonathan White.
This fall, Audible is the best place to listen for everything you're into, from comedy to motivation to the latest bestsellers. Find it all at Audible with audiobooks, exclusive originals, and popular podcasts. Start listening free when you sign up at audible.com.
Contractor license 1047-781.
Duck and Goodrich taught Kenny to do things the right way, not the easy way. And now, every ghetto technician has a digital assistant named Duncan. Digital Duncan is a genius, just like his namesake. Back during the Cold War, the U.S. government came to my dad and said, "We need you to build a giant freezer at the test site and bring it down to 50 degrees below zero." They wanted to make sure their nuclear triggers would function if they had to send warheads to Russia during the wintertime. So Dad designed a cascade system that used weird gases like argon and CO2 instead of freon. He and I got that system down to 50 degrees below zero in the Nevada desert in the summertime. When the U.S. government needs a genius solution, they ask Duncan Goodrich. And when your ghetto technician needs a genius solution, they ask Digital Duncan. Ghetto has been awarded 114 patents for cool stuff we've invented, and we believe number 115 is on the way. Ghetto, G-O-E-T-T-F, will keep you cool, but it's hard to spell.
With so many protein bar options, how do you choose? Here's a little secret. They keep the fresh ones in the fridge. G2G bars are premium protein bars that taste amazing. Find them in the fridge at Albertsons, Smart and Final Extra, and G2GBar.com.
Hey SoCal, did you or someone you know need help? Well, the helpful SoCal Honda dealers want to hear your story. Submit a video or voice message to KFIAM640.com. Keyword is helpful, and the helpful Honda guys and gals in blue might just help you out.
1877 cars for kids. K-A-R-S cars for kids. 1877 cars for kids. Donate your cars today. Donate online at carsforkids.com. That's cars with a K. Pickup is quick and easy. You'll get a vacation voucher and maximum tax deduction. 1877 cars for kids. Donate your cars today.
Also accepting real estate donations. There's red, blue, and then there's you. You're a free thinker and believe the best idea should win, no matter whose idea that is.
At KFI AM 640, we give you all the news you need and a variety of opinions. You make up your own mind.
Beholden to no one.
Live, local, and independent, KFI AM 640 is made for independent thinkers like you. This is KFI AM 640, heard everywhere in the iHeartRadio app. I'm Oscar Ramirez, and you're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition. This week, we also saw the leak of the Pandora Papers, and it's shedding light on the financial secrets of world leaders, politicians, fugitives, and con artists. These leaked records show how big power players are stashing assets in secret shell companies, offshore tax havens, and trusts, with governments doing little to stop it. For more on what's in the Pandora Papers, we'll speak to Michael Hudson, senior editor at the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, the group who led the effort on obtaining these documents.
These are documents that first of all, the offshore system, it's in some cases people use it for, they're on the up and up. They're using it to do business, across borders, that kind of thing. But often, too often, the offshore system is used to help people dodge taxes. It's used to launder money. It's used to cover up the movement of proceeds of financial crimes like Ponzi schemes and the looting of public funds by public officials. And so we've got almost 12 million files from 14 different offshore services providers. That's like law firms and wealth management advisors and others that basically are like the middleman. They're the fixers who help people who want to go offshore, help them set up offshore companies, offshore trusts, and other kinds of things. And also sort of not just say, oh, you get here, it's $1,200, here's an offshore company. They actually set up sort of layers, like an offshore company owns, is owned by a trust. and then the trust is controlled by another offshore company. And of course, all along the way, the people involved with these different entities are often not the real people who control the money or who are benefiting from this, but they're actually what are called nominee directors and nominee shareholders, who are really just front men. Their job is to basically say, okay, you can use my name, you can touch my name in that company, and then when law enforcement authorities or a court order comes to me, I can honestly say, I have no idea what goes on with that company, it's just my name.
How do you go about obtaining these documents? Are they done through subpoenas and, the United States Freedom of Information request? I mean, how do you go about getting this stuff? Because obviously this stuff comes out and makes a lot of people look really bad.
Some of that's going to have to remain a mystery. I can tell you we didn't get it through any sort of subpoena or anything like that, but we worked our sources and eventually got, a series of document dumps that came to us. These are confidential, secret documents that came to us from basically, as I said, 14 different service providers around the world, from the Caribbean to the South China Sea and just all around the world. And the other thing that happens is you just don't take these documents and you say, there's all these names in these documents. You actually did reporting. We spent 2 years working on this project. In addition to, we read through the documents, we consulted with experts, we used public documents to compare to secret documents. We tracked down, really hard to trace sources around the world. We looked through court records, and we had the resources to do this because we were able to put together a team of 150 news outlets around the world, including the Washington Post, the BBC, the Guardian, Radio France, the Indian Express, and in all we had more than 600 journalists in 117 countries and territories, which is the biggest journalism investigative reporting project in history.
Let's talk a little bit about some of these key findings here. So there's a lot of big leaders of countries who have been caught up in this. So we're looking at the King of Jordan, King Abdullah II. We're looking at leaders from Kenya, Ecuador, the Czech Republic, people tied to Vladimir Putin as well.
And also former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. I'll tell you dive a little deeply into the King of Jordan. The King of Jordan, the documents in our reporting shows that an accountant in Switzerland worked with lawyers in British Virgin Islands to help the king secretly purchase 14 luxury homes worth more than $106 million altogether in the U.S. and the U.K., including 3 side-by-side, a trio of luxury homes on the beach in Malibu, California. The advisors also helped him set up 36 shell companies from 1995 to 2017. And we see in the emails, they were really trying to keep his name on the down low. Some of the offshore advisors that were helping him simply used the code name, you-know-who.
I love that, because we're talking about, all the secrecy and the shadiness that goes into this. And even in their emails, they're trying to conceal the identity there with such, large sums of money and all that. Continuing on with this, right? Jordan receives a lot of financial aid from a lot of different countries and whatnot. They say, I guess, that the King of Jordan bought these properties and all this stuff with his own personal fortune, but...
Yeah, and his attorneys say, oh, by the way, he's not required to pay taxes under Jordanian law because he's the king. And that's understandable, but as one of our experts on sort of political authority in the Middle East said, look, despite the fact that he doesn't have to pay taxes, he has reason not to flaunt his wealth, to keep his wealth undercover, because both his citizens and the donors, the places like the U.S., foundations, et cetera, that are putting aid money into Jordan are going to be kind of upset when they hear that, oh, he's got all these luxury properties around the world.
I want to talk about the United States because this reaches many corners of the world, but the United States figures into this in a pretty prominent way because, so we're looking at offshore accounts, we're also looking at people setting up trusts as well, and the United States became a key player in that, specifically South Dakota, which is kind of an interesting one, and some of these other states that were involved in this are Florida, Nevada, another one, Texas, that involved in this, but tell me about South Dakota specifically and how they figure into this.
South Dakota is a state that is kind of in the last 5 years or so has sort of, to some degree, turned itself into kind of like a Cayman Islands on the Great Plains. If you live in another country and you want to cast a shadow, essentially hide some of your assets, you can get a trust in South Dakota, and it will protect your money. It will generally protect your identity. And so we've seen, lots and lots of foreign officials, folks with sort of sketchy backstories have been accused of wrongdoing in their home countries, moving money to U.S. states like South Dakota.
How does the U.S. system, allow for all of this? You always kind of envision this happening, as I mentioned, as you were mentioning earlier, things like in the Bahamas are usually what we think of when we're talking about tax havens. How does that migrate itself here, with our U.S. laws?
When somebody says offshore or tax haven, they're usually going to get an image in their mind of like palm trees, right?
Yeah.
Because they're thinking it's an island, right? Or maybe, like Switzerland, like, snow-capped Alps or something. But, the United States, individual states have been able to give the rest of the offshore havens in the world a run for their money. And right now the laws in the U.S., on the federal level, they're trying to tighten up and make it harder for the states to essentially tie the owners of offshore companies, if companies traded in Nevada or Delaware. But still, there are a lot of loopholes, and it's pretty easy for someone overseas to sort of hide their money, hide their assets here in the United States. And I think because the United States has kind of gone, been sort of styled itself as the global policeman of the offshore world. It's gone after banks in Switzerland for, hiding American assets from the IRS. It's gone after, the British Virgin Islands and other these sort of offshore paradises for their role in the offshore system. Meanwhile, there are a lot of states that are throwing in a lot of money for the U.S. and just have become caught in this just sort of global system.
Right. Yeah, the states with the most trust in the Pandora Papers and all this is South Dakota, Florida, Delaware, Texas, and Nevada. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot made of that as more people start getting to this reporting. Michael Hudson, Senior Editor at the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You're listening to the Daily Dive Weekend Edition on Kfi Am 640. When we come back, we'll dig in more to the Pandora Papers and the hunt for looted Cambodian treasure.
It's no secret that real estate has been a solid long-term investment play for just about everyone. So with rents skyrocketing, how can you take advantage and buy some rental property to get in on the action? Good news. Owning now offers a double-play cash-out loan program where you can refinance your mortgage to take out the cash you're sitting on in your home's equity. Then you find a rental property where your cash-out refi covers the down payment. The rent covers the new mortgage payment. Owning provides the purchase mortgage. And boom, you're a real estate investor. Of course, you need good credit and enough verifiable income, but why not call 833-2-OWN-IT or go to owning.com to see if the double play is right for you.
Qualified borrower. NMLS 2611. Licensed by the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act. Subject to credit approval. Call 833-303-2160 for terms and conditions. Equal housing lender.
That's 833-2-OWN-IT or go to owning.com.
Being in the Army National Guard is about more than serving your country. It's about being there for your community when your neighbors need you most. The Army National Guard makes college affordable, and serving part-time can help you graduate debt-free. Do you want to stay close to friends and family? The Guard allows you to serve close to home. Serving part-time in the Army National Guard lets you have the life you want. Learn more by visiting nationalguard.com.
Sponsored by the California Army National Guard. Aired by the California Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is my business. I started it, and my hard work made it successful. We survived the last year, and things are starting to look better, but now hard work alone isn't enough. I need cash to hire some people and buy supplies. Loan Me Business is for people like you. We can loan your business from $6,000 up to $250,000. And we understand that you don't need the cash soon. You need it now. And if your credit isn't perfect, that's okay. Apply today and you can have the money in your account tomorrow. Loan Me Business loans have longer terms, keeping your monthly payments low and manageable. You can even pay the loan off early to control your costs with no prepayment penalties. That sounds great. Simply go to loanmebiz.com to get started. That's loanmebiz.com or call 844-3-LOAN-ME.
Not all applicants will qualify. Approval and terms subject to credit standards. See loanme.com for details. Loans made pursuant to California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation Law License 603K061.
That's 844-3-LOAN-ME or loanmebiz.com. San Manuel Casino is changing its name and changing its game. San Manuel Casino is now Yamaha Resort and Casino at San Manuel, with 2 new casino floors, now with over 6,500 slots, the most in the West. A new high limit room for 5 elevated gaming experiences, new luxury retail shops, restaurants and bars, and even more thrills to come. Experience a level of thrill that California has never seen before. San Manuel Casino is now Yamaha Resort and Casino at San Manuel. Details at Yamaha.com. Must be 21. Please gamble responsibly.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
I don't know why they can't say we killed him, we shot him and he's in the hospital, we tackled him and he's in jail. What's neutral on it? Yeah, you're right. They should say we tackled him with a custody or we killed him. No one in law enforcement or government just speaks English.
John and Ken.
Tell me what it is.
Weekdays 2 to 6 on KFI.
You voted for all this, and now what, you're going to move to a state where there's far less of these progressive whack jobs and say, wow, life is better here. None of this bad stuff happens by accident. It happens because of choices we make. John and Ken.
On Michael Jackson.
You teach people desire. Some of us don't get great athletic genes. Some of us don't get great math abilities. There are a lot of people that get desire abilities, and they tend to drift towards what kind of jobs government work. John and Ken.
Weekdays 2 to 6 on KFI.
You're going to get a bunch of emails saying handle your reform. Okay, just to let you know, I agree with that. So you don't have to bother. Don't waste your time.
Mornings from 6 to 10 on KFI.
The weight of the world seems to rest on your shoulders, and sometimes life seems like it's filled only with confusion and chaos. But I assure you, I have a plan for you.